Divorce TV with Wally Marcus. Military Divorce with Attorney Patricia Green. Support for Divorce TV provided in part by the Center for Divorce Mediation, 520-577-1202. Hello everybody, it's Wally Marcus and Patricia Green. I want to welcome you, Pat. It's a real special pleasure here on doing the show with you, and I really appreciate it. And we have an unusual topic today, which I think is really appropriate for the Tucson area, which is military divorce. And since we have the military base here, we have a lot of other people here who deal with that program. If anybody else wants, we're going to periodically talk during the show. We're talking, and Pat, if she wants to, will give us some information, and we'll post it on our website, or she'll post it on her website, and we're going to put that on the screen later on. But our website's at the bottom of the screen, and you can see it. Yes. And people can get more information or talk to us if they want to do that.
Okay.
Pat, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Wally, and thank you for having me here this afternoon. I am a family law attorney here in Tucson. I've been practicing family law primarily since 1998. I attended law school here at the University of Arizona. I do divorce, child custody, child support, paternity actions. I am a member of the Operation Standby.
I'm not familiar with it. What is that?
It's a volunteer program organized by the American Bar Association, and lawyers can sign up to assist military members who have questions about family law matters.
I know you don't like being called an expert on military divorce, but I don't know anybody in Tucson who knows more about it than you do.
Well, I appreciate that, but no, I'm far from an expert, and I review the materials. Materials are available for the general public. The American Bar Association has a military committee, which is a subcommittee of the family law section, at their website, www.aba.org.
Once again, if you give it to me later on, we'll put it on our website so people can get that information. It's hard to pick it up fast sometimes.
No problem. But if you go to that website, you can find answers to many questions and a copy of the Service Members Civil Relief Act, which is one of the primary documents governing service members, active duty service members, when you're dealing with civil proceedings, including family law matters.
Let me just actually put up on your screen now, if we can do it, the information that has your information about you. So if you want more information about Attorney Green, or you want to go to her website or her telephone number, it's on the screen now, and we'll try to remember to put it back on the screen later on.
Thank you. Okay.
Can you tell us, you mentioned the military, how does the military divorce actually differ from regular divorce?
The primary differences are military pension, the handling of military pension, as well as issues that arise when military members are deployed on active duty and there are children involved. Also, if the military member, even if children are not involved, the military member is deployed and you're having difficulty locating that person or getting them to respond once you've filed an action, that's when the Service Members Civil Relief Act can kick in. Additionally, the military member who has been contacted and served has the ability under the Service Members Civil Relief Act to request a stay. They can tell the court that because of the fact that I'm not in the States, I'm over here serving our country, I have difficulty obtaining legal representation and representing myself in this action, and I'd like to request a stay.
I assume you've done a few of these cases.
I have handled a handful, I would say, but at the same time, I've done a lot of research and had to use the stay provisions both on behalf of my own clients as well as to object to stays that have been requested by opposing parties.
I'm going to come back a little bit later on, but you mentioned the Service Member Civil Relief Act.
Yes.
And that's relatively new?
It is relatively new in that it is a complete revision of what was previously called the, it's double
I can't remember it either.
Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act.
Okay.
And in December of 2003, under President Bush, the statute was completely rewritten and the title shortened a little bit, so it's now the Service Members.
So basically it's just the older act, and it's been sort of updated and
correct
in doing that one. But that's what it was effective in 2000.
2003 is when the revisions were made. I apologize, I don't know exactly the effective date, but best guess would probably be January 2004.
Who is actually covered by the Act?
All active duty service members, as well as, and this part I'm going to have to read, so forgive me, a member.
That's okay.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard who are on active duty under 10 U.S.C. 101 D1. And for service members, I'm sure you'll know what that means. Also members of the National Guard who are called to active duty, and commissioned members of the Public Health Service and National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration.
That's interesting. I didn't know that they covered that.
Right.
In active duty, I mean, I'm a former, actually, reservist. I served many years ago in the Army Reserves, but when I was actually going to drills during the month or something like that, that wouldn't have covered me. It's only when I was actually...
Correct. Because that's temporary, and generally, when you're doing your reserve duty, you're only gone for a weekend or so anyway.
Is there any difference at all? I mean, we obviously are deploying a lot of people to Iraq now and Afghanistan. Is there any difference between being on active duty in states and not in the states at all? Or just active duty is active duty?
I believe a technical reading of the statute says active duty is active duty, but part of what you have to show in order to apply, have the statute apply to you, is that you're unable to participate in the proceedings, and that's more likely to occur when someone is outside of the states.
Or what happens if you're in just like you're living in Connecticut and you're on the base here in Arizona? Is that?
I would question whether or not it would apply under those circumstances. Again, I think the showing has to be quite strong, and there are members, litigants in states other than Arizona who regularly participate in proceedings, so just being out of state is not really enough reason.
All right, but I'm just saying, if you had a divorce case, for instance, and the wife brought the divorce case in another state, New York or Connecticut, and the person was actually on base here, how would that work?
I don't think that that alone would make qualify under the Service Members Civil
Would or
Relief
would not?
Act.
I'm sorry.
Would not.
Okay, so they'd have to appear in Connecticut and it wouldn't make any difference.
Right, they could appear by telephone. You know, they could hire an attorney here to appear for them. So there are things that can be done.
I know there's always a confidentiality issue, but I know our viewers really appreciate the extent that you have real life stories or examples that you can do. To the extent that you're able to do that, I always appreciate that, if you can say that. If a person is in the service and the Act applies to them, is it possible for them to waive that at all? Or
certainly it is. Yes.
And is there a way they go about doing that? Or
there is actually in Arizona, our summons has language that says if you are a military member that you need to make that known. And there is, when we're served, if you sign an acknowledgement of service, there's a box that can be checked that says, I waive the provisions of the Service Members Civil Relief Act.
I remember in the old days when I used to practice law, we always had to do a military affidavit, and it was in every case. Anytime you got a default judgment, anybody always had to file a military affidavit. Do we do something similar to that
We still
now?
include that language that says that the person is or is not a member of the military, and if they are a member, we have to indicate whether or not they have waived their rights under the service members.
And I remember, once again, from my early days as an attorney, when we had to do that under the old Act, the hard part about that was sometimes knowing if somebody was in the service at all.
Correct.
How do you verify if the person doesn't really know, isn't really sure? How do they?
Fortunately, the military has made it somewhat easy for us. There's a website that you can go to, and if you have the person's name, and I'm going to look at my paperwork again.
Anytime you need to.
Okay. If you have their name, date of birth, and Social Security number, it is actually it's called the Service Members Civil Relief Act, and don't have the website handy.
That's okay. If you give me the website later,
I'll give it to you later.
You give it to me, and we'll post it on our website, which has a beautiful picture of you on it.
Okay.
In that section, if you look for the beautiful picture of Pat, you'll also see the information that we have on that one too.
But you will need the Social Security number, their birth date, and their full name.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. We talked about that. You mentioned a stay before in court proceedings. What is that? What's that all about? What's the stay? Let's say maybe we look at a divorce case. The divorce case is brought, and the person's in the military service. What happens? How does the stay work?
Generally, the individual is served with notice of the proceedings. Under Arizona law, they have, if they're served within the state, they have 20 days to file a response. If they're served